So you're interested in buying a business, but what sort of business should you buy? Look, there are thousands of different types of businesses to buy. There are big businesses, there are small businesses, there are service businesses, there are product businesses, there are businesses that make things, businesses that do things. What type of business should you buy? So many choices. Now, what I don't want you to do is to become one of these business buyers that procrastinates and can never quite decide what type of business to buy, so therefore doesn't buy a business at all. That would be an absolute shame, because you would be missing out on one of the fastest ways to increase your income. So how do you make the decision? Well, the best starting point is to say, what do I know? Now, if you own a business already, the decision is a lot easier, because you look at your existing business and you say, well, maybe I could buy a business doing the same thing in a different part of town or a different part of the country or a different part of the state. Or I could look at complementary businesses. So someone who buys this from me, what else would they buy? And then I can get these customers to buy this product and these customers to buy that product. But if you're buying a business for the first time and you don't yet have a business, then you've got more options, and more options create more confusion. So let me cut through all that confusion and give you some clarity. So if you are someone who wants to buy a business, doesn't know what type of business to buy, start with this question. The question is, what do I know? What do you know about? What businesses have you worked for? What does your brother or your cousin do? What do you understand? And start making a list. So typically people start making a list, and it's quite hard at first because they're thinking, I don't know anything. But that's okay. Once you've got over the I don't know anything, you realize that actually you're pretty good at understanding digital marketing. And years ago, you worked for a bakery, so you kind of know how a bakery works. So you list down all these things that you know, and that is your starting point. Now, why is it important to start with something that you know? Well, otherwise you're going to have two learning curves. You're going to have the how to buy a business learning curve, and you're going to have the how do I own this business learning curve. So if we can cut out one of the learning curves, it's going to make life an awful lot easier for you. Now, the next thing that you need to think about is, well, if you don't know much about very much at all, then perhaps you need a business partner. Now, the business partner could be a shareholder, an equity shareholder in the business, or it could just be someone that you bring in to help you get this brand new project off the ground. And I've done this in the past as well with sectors that I don't know. I've found someone who knows all about them, and I've gone into business with them, and they've run the business for me. So that's a great strategy if you feel like you don't know too much at all. Now, the other thing that I want you to think about when thinking about what type of business to buy is, where is the business going to be located? So I always say to people, if you've got a choice between buying a business that's 5 miles down the road or 500 miles away, then buy the one that's just down the road. It's an awful lot easier to own a business where you can just get in the car and go and visit than one that you have to get on an aeroplane to visit. The next thing that you need to remember is that it's actually easier to buy a larger business than it is a smaller business. Now, what most people do when they're new to business buying is they think very small. They think about businesses that turn over maybe 100,000 a year or 200,000 a year, and that's kind of in their comfort zone. But look at it like this. If you've got a business that's turning over 100,000 a year and making a profit of just 20,000, 20%, well, 20,000 isn't really going to get you very far. But if you buy a business that has annual revenues of 2 million a year, and that's making a 20% profit margin, well, now it's 400,000 a year. Now that starts to move the needle. That starts to pay off the mortgage. That starts to buy the holiday home or putting the kids through college. So 400,000 makes a difference. 20,000 doesn't really at all. Which would you prefer? But it's out of your comfort zone. You've got to start thinking bigger. But let me tell you this, when you buy a larger business, you're actually buying a better business. You're buying a business that's proven that it can do 2 million of annual revenue a year. A business that turns over 100,000 a year, well, it's proven that it can make an income for one person, but is that really the sort of business that you should be buying? It's also easier to finance a larger business. More about financing on another video, but it's easier to finance a larger business. And also, a larger business has, and this is important, a management team. And a management team are the team that are going to run the business when you aren't there. And let's face it, you don't want to buy a job, you want to buy a business. So you want to buy a business that's big enough to be able to employ people to run the business for you. The smaller businesses, you're probably just buying a job that you have to turn up and do every single day. So when buying a business, think about what you know, think about who you can team up with, and then think about buying bigger. You will thank me for it later. You've come this far, let's take the next step together, which is a free live training, and you can access it immediately. Just go to the description underneath this video. There is a link there at the top. Click the link and I will see you on the training.